Chapter 10. We start with Yang and Neptune heading over to Junior's club where they are greeted at gunpoint. Meanwhile, Ruby and Weiss visit the CTT. While Weiss goes into the tower, Ruby gets saved by Penny from a car, leading to Penny revealing her true metallic nature to Ruby, who takes the news very well. Meanwhile, Blake and Sun infiltrate a White Fang rally where Roman Torchwick is the lead speaker. He shows off his paladin before spotting Blake and Sun in the crowd. Investigating weapon smuggling. Oh yeah, that is what Weiss and Ruby were up to, huh? The whole Penny is a robot thing really overshadowed that detail, didn't it? Then the weapon smuggling literally never gets brought back up again. Yeah, Junior! Him and the Malachite twins are some of my favorite minor characters. Speaking of, Melanie and Milsha are really cute back there in the corner. I just wish this wasn't the only shot of them. I like that Ruby and Weiss plan on splitting up before they even get to the CTT. Penny didn't just distract Ruby, and Weiss is right here. Ruby will just get in the way and look out of place. I also appreciate Ruby's reservations about the Atlas soldiers and ships. In the show, I never really felt like there was anything off about them, because I never really got to see Vale without them. Having Ruby say she feels uncomfortable with so much of the Atlas military surrounding the city helps to really hammer home that idea that Atlas is smothering the town. It takes until Volume 3 to touch on Ironwood's paranoia and twisted view on the concept of protection, and once we finish that scene, it doesn't get mentioned again until after the fall of Beacon. I like that we're setting up this character trait much earlier than that here. These series of panels are a little confusing. I get what happened seeing this final panel. Ruby zipped in to save this little boy, and Penny zipped in to stop the car, but these three-ish panels don't convey that at all. I didn't realize Ruby had moved from her spot at all. I don't know why they changed the setup for Penny's car stopping anyway. The Atlas soldiers still chase down Penny afterwards, and we've completely cut out Ironwood's speech about the Paladin. So when we see Torchwick with his stolen one later, it just comes out of nowhere. The show just sets up and executed this whole sequence much better. Once again, the manga just cuts things out and rearranges things willy-nilly without thinking about the flow of events in the long run. Oh no! Ruby carrying Penny like a princess is so cute! What is this? Like, that's the White Fang logo, but it just looks like a shadow on the wall? Is it supposed to be a flag? Or like painted on like graffiti? So I need to be clear about something. Penny telling Ruby she's not a real girl is my favorite scene in the whole show. The performances from our actresses for the girls was amazing. Everything about this moment really struck a chord with me. So understanding me putting my personal bias aside, I can honestly say the way they did the scene is still really strong, despite being very different from the show. Ruby is being an amazing friend to Penny here. Understanding when your friend isn't ready to talk about something yet, and giving them the time to do so is something not a lot of people think about. We can be so insistent on knowing what the news is or trying to help them out by knowing the specifics. But Ruby happily letting Penny walk away, despite knowing something is clearly wrong, shows Ruby's compassion and understanding of those around her. The writers and directors always say Ruby's a pure and simple soul, but it's moments like this that makes it feel true. The only negative of the scene is that I don't know why we skipped over Penny telling Ruby she's a robot just to have Ruby recap that to us. But regardless, this scene is still one of the best, because they kept Ruby's follow-up remarks almost the same. Ruby doesn't care what you're made of, Ruby cares who you are. Penny says here that she takes walks whenever she gets lonely. She never says anything like this in the show, so I always figured Penny just had the tendency to wander in order to see the world. Having her explain it's due to her loneliness is actually really sad. But then her follow-up of going back home because she knows Ruby is such a good friend, she doesn't feel lonely anymore, is incredibly sweet. 10 out of 10. I don't think this artist knows how to draw robots. The Paladin just kind of looks like a big box cutter. I wish they made Blake and Sun look different from the crowds around them. The first couple of times I read this chapter, I didn't even realize they were in this panel. Roman's speech here is better than the one in the show, at least in my opinion. First of all, Gray's performance for Torchwick was like too schmoozy. I don't know, there was just too much lilt in his voice that it sounds almost like Torchwick was teasing the crowd, not trying to rally them. Then also just his words meant nothing. He He basically just said, "Yo, you want to cause mayhem? I'm willing to help. I have a giant mech." Likewise, the crowd's half-hearted fist pumping versus their wild roaring in the manga feels appropriate to how good or bad Roman's proposal was. Notably, Neo's not here yet. Now, watching this episode, you can really tell she wasn't originally supposed to be here. She's just in the background. Roman never even looks at her. She barely moves. It's no secret she was shoved into this episode at the last second, but as lazy as her placement was in this scene, it at least established her a little bit. Lazy setup is better than no setup. So my opinions this time around were really all over the place. The manga is showing off its excellent changes to dialogue again, but when it comes to the action scenes, it stumbles a little bit. The paladin doesn't look great, and rearranging Penny's chase scene did the flow of actions no favors. By this point in time, it's really clear where this manga really shines and really fails. Good qualities consist of dialogue, character interactions, characterization, and funny faces. But the bad qualities consist of action shots, flow of action, backgrounds, and establishing or setting up important characters or elements for the story. On one hand, RWBY is a very character-driven story. Our core cast are the heart and soul that made me fall in love with the show. Yes, the flashy action from the original trailers may have caught my attention, but I wouldn't have kept watching if the characters didn't make this story compelling. And seeing the manga expand on the characters really is great. But unfortunately, it is an action show. The action scenes support the cast. RWBY doesn't fight Torchwick and Neo on the top of that airship for nothing. There was an important setup for all three of those characters during that sequence, and the manga's inability to portray these action scenes in a cohesive way really is a hindrance on this manga in the long run. But that aside, I'm still going to keep reading it. Next time, let's see what happens when the paladin gives chase. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, James Dodds, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, G Extreme, Classy Critic, Surge, Boulder Off Bros, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Great Bar, Caleb Grimm, Pentamenta, Genital War Thunder, Carmen, Order, Jake, Soren, Storm, Amber, Lolith, Livid Aries, Matt Frost, and just a chap in a top hat. So yeah, I hope you liked that video. Short one. Next time it's gonna be a longer one. Tell me your thoughts and opinions. I know this is a pretty good moment for RWBY, like the original show. So what do you think about it being changed up for the manga? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Any and all thoughts and opinions, leave them in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.